So, loneliness in video games. You can get this feeling a lot in many different types of games. I mean, there are countless games that can just make you feel alone all the time. Tomb Raider, Firewatch, Resident Evil, that's just naming a few. There are so many different games that can give you this vibe. And it's not necessarily a creepy vibe at all. It's kind of just this sense that you get. It's this feeling that you get. It's there. And you really just start to open up. And I feel like you're just realizing the game. And you're really just invested into everything that the game has to offer. You are feeling alone, even though you're just playing a video game in your own house. Well, yeah, sure, you can make the argument that you don't really ever get this feeling unless you're playing a horror game and you're traveling down a dark hallway alone. But that's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about like large landscaped areas where you're just all by yourself. So here's another example. Fallout. No matter what Fallout game you're playing, there's people, they're kind of all over the place sometimes. I'm not a big Fallout fan, so I don't really know a whole lot. But I know that the game takes place in a wasteland. The further you go out, the further away you get from just society and people as a whole. And you're just alone in just this empty wilderness, this vast wasteland. There's a term similar to just being lonely in games, which would be walking simulator. Now this is basically a game where, like Firewatch, you're just kind of just breezing through the game. You're just walking, you're just traveling from place to place. And that is that's a significant kind of game. But I feel like it's more effective if you're playing a game that isn't a walking simulator. Because I feel like it's so much more effective where it's not exactly supposed to be like a walking simulator. But it kind of is in the way that you're just there and you're just alone. Nobody really ever talks about sky in video games. Just the sky itself. And especially games where you can get to the sky, like GTA or Just Cause or whatever. Whenever you can get to the sky in an airplane, in a jetpack, whatever you got to do to get there. It's such a strange feeling, knowing that you're at the very top and you're the only one there in the game. You're the only thing that's like actually alive that you're controlling in the game. And you've made it to the furthest in the actual video game, You're at the top of the map and you're just looking over everything. It's such a strange feeling because you're just alone. It can feel like you're on top of the world. Everything's silent. There's no trouble. You are just there. And that's it. There's nothing really going on. Everything that's going on below you is problematic. But you are away from all that. Now this next example is kind of a different way of explaining loneliness in a game. I've only experienced it in Halo though. Sometimes you'll be in an area and you will kill all the enemies there. And then there's nothing from that point on. You're just there and there's dead bodies everywhere. And you've completed everything in the area. And it feels surreal because everyone's dead. And you know that nothing's going to happen until you move on to the next area, however far that may be. It might be right around the corner, or it might be down the road, or right through a door. But it's at that instant in time in the game that makes it so weird. Old racing games on the Xbox or the PlayStation, whichever one, they always feel so surreal. Because if you're playing a game single player, let's say you're doing like a drift match or like a timed run, there's audience members on the side of the road that you can actually drive your car up to, but they don't move. They kind of just stare. You know what I'm talking about? Like an old game. They're just there. They're not really making any motions. And it's so weird to see them not moving, but you're moving. And it gives off another vibe in that category. Another thing, footsteps. Signature footstep sounds in video games. Like, you'll be alone in like Call of Duty and you'll be walking around and those footstep sound effects, when they change, when you walk on certain things and it's the only thing you hear, it is so strange. And I feel like it's another placement into this category that we're talking about. Now that I got all that out of the way, listen to this video game idea. What if there was a game where You are just spawned into a hotel in the middle of nowhere. Huge hotel. And the object of the game is to find your way out. You have no idea where you are, you don't know who you are, and you're just there. I feel like that would be such an interesting game. You'd kind of feel like you're going crazy a little bit. You're alone. There's no sounds but yourself. You're isolated. That's so strange to me. Just these rooms. Rows and rows. Hallways and hallways of just empty rooms. I feel like that would make me go nuts. You could just load into the game and not even want to play it because you're so weirded out by the silence and just the emptiness of everything. And you gotta travel through the entire hotel to even find your way out. However that way may be. So yeah, that's kind of weird. It's kind of alone. Yeah, that's all kind of cool and everything. But listen to this now. Let's say eventually you do solve the puzzle. Let's say you eventually do get out of the hotel. Now what? There's just a road. There's just another wasteland. You're just alone. That would be so weird. To finally beat the game, you get out of the hotel, and let's say there's just a road, and there's just a wasteland, and there's just nothing anywhere else. You have nothing to go back to. It kind of feels like the Backrooms, like this game on Steam that's got this big following. It's bothersome, and I feel like you could really grab that alone emotion that pulls people in and just make a game out of it by doing that. So yeah, I think that would be really creepy and kind of cool. If you want to take a break from the everyday action-packed or horror game that comes out, you should really just try and find a game like this, where these simple, weird feelings come to you and go. And it makes you think. Anyway, thanks.